Welcome back to what is truly an action-packed aviation news recap, so make sure you are staying tuned, as there's coverage on Air Canada growing its fleet, a new aircraft order at Boeing, and Qatar Airways posting record profits. Let me begin with the Canadian flag carrier, which is growing its 737 MAX fleet specifically with Boeing, with the planned acquisition of 8 further 737-8s being announced. The company has agreed to receive those 8 units from leading aircraft lessor of BOC Aviation Limited. These aircraft are expected to enter service next year in 2025, and it will allow the airline to boost capacity across short to medium haul routes with pretty quick effect, rather than waiting, say, years for aircraft to be delivered from the source of Boeing. Air Canada says that while the 8 aircraft are going to enter service in 2025, they're actually being delivered this year. But they can't enter into service yet, as they need to undergo some important modifications. These modifications will initially allow the aircraft to operate with a single economy class layout, so not aligning with the broader Air Canada fleet experience. But never fear, this will not be permanent. They say they will eventually look to reconfigure all 8 aircraft to match the narrow-body experience you would see on other 737 MAX and single-aisle jets in the Air Canada fleet. This is something we're seeing more and more airlines adopt as a quick way to boost capacity into markets that require it, maybe fend off competition or something else in between. The airline expects the 737 MAX aircraft to enable greater flexibility across its network, alleviating pressures on existing units. Furthermore, Air Canada says the arrival of these aircraft will help mitigate emissions and allow them to meet sustainability goals. I think one of the very interesting takeaways from this most recent acquisition is it comes in a time where more and more Canadian companies are looking to secure additional jets. Look no further than fierce competitor WestJet, who live in the same sector and have on numerous occasions this year alone sought to grow their MAX fleet with immediate effect thanks to new leasing agreements. This allows it to boost not only its fleet, but capacity into key locations. Now, unlike purchasing new aircraft directly from the source, being the manufacturer and agreeing to lease deals instead if possible, it allows airlines to secure aircraft quicker to respond to competition or an evolving market that requires capacity. Exactly what I'm touching on with regards to what we saw at WestJet. BOC Aviation celebrates its relationship with Air Canada. Its executive officer and managing director said that the aircraft will aid passenger traffic growth numbers, and the leasing company believes it's well positioned to help stimulate this demand thanks to the backlog that it has. On to the next story in today's proceedings, and that's with Qatar Airways, who are celebrating record annual profit and the strongest, therefore, financial performance across their 27-year history. The airline says that total revenues came in at USD 22.2 billion, and profits were 39% higher than the previous financial year, as it has grown pretty significantly across various markets. Profits for the year recorded in the annual report came in at USD 1.87 billion. And again, it follows that growth and the demand that they've been seeing right across their network. Also, to a certain extent, the continued rebuild from the global pandemic. Furthermore, Qatar says it carried more than 40 million passengers, which represented a 26% jump year over year. The airline has not only seen demand rise to existing locations that it was already serving, but it has committed pretty heavily to expanding that network to add new cities. Across the most recent financial year, Qatar bumped flights to those existing locations I speak of, but it also prioritized launching to new markets. On top of that, and lastly, it's returned to cities that had been missing since the global pandemic outbreak. The network grew to more than 170 destinations across the financial year, with Asia, the Middle East, and European cities getting the bulk of those new routes. Resumption to key markets in China and Japan, unsurprisingly, were part of the unreturned markets coming back to their network. These the slowest recovering locations that are now really improving. In terms of passenger revenue, well, that increased 19% in 1 year, thanks to everything I touched on with regards to services, and if you're after capacity, well, increased by 21%, and load factors stood at 83%. Qatar Airways actually says that these are the highest recorded load factors in company history as well. The airline knows that these results are incredibly strong, and it believes it's well positioned heading into the following financial year to meet all the demand that is present. While Qatar primarily focuses on profitability, it also knows there are other areas that need to be a focus, such as maintaining high efficiency and ensuring that customer experience is right at the forefront. It needs to maintain a high market share in the Middle East, which is incredibly competitive and puts so much emphasis on giving you the best possible travel experience. So work is always needing to be done. In terms of Qatar Cargo, well, it celebrated its 20th year of operation and maintained its role as a leader. They said that their market share for the cargo network is at 7.1%. This represented a 0.004% jump, obviously pretty minimal compared to other parts of the business, but if you've been tuning into my videos regularly, or maybe you just love checking in on how airline groups are doing within the industry, you'll know that with regards to freight operators, figures across the cargo market haven't necessarily exploded. They've more plateaued and if anything declined. So in this case, to still see even a minimal increase is positive. On to the final story in today's proceedings. Turkish Airlines is boosting its freight division with the announcement alongside Boeing to order further 777 freighters. As part of the announcement, Turkish Airlines has committed to 4 more 777Fs from the American plane maker. The order will enable Turkish Cargo's freight division to grow the fleet. The 4 additional freighters will bump the total fleet to 12 and therefore strengthen Turkish Cargo's position in that sector, and they'll work alongside other existing freight units that are present in the fleet. The purchase really does underscore the group's overall commitment to growth. Boeing does call its 777 freighter the world's best and most capable twin-engine freighter on the market, with a great payload and a range of 9,200 kilometers or 4,970 nautical miles. It means it can fly to locations right around the world, with quite a lot of tonnage there. The interesting thing at the moment as well is the 777F has a replacement, the 777-8F. But one of the biggest differences between these two planes, while yes, efficiency, is one is readily available, the other has not been built yet and not been certified. For the upcoming 777-8F, well, it's expected to enter service in the latter stages of this decade. So if a company is requiring capacity now, the 777F becomes a great option. When taking a look at Turkish Airlines on a whole, growth is one of their number one focuses. As part of these plans, Turkish wants to increase its fleet quite considerably. Over 800 aircraft are hoped to be present over a 10-year plan, and they want to have a passenger network that spans 400 locations. The growth is expected to continue as they target increasing their passenger count from around 85 million annually to 170 million. They know these are ambitious targets, don't worry. They're going to be also growing their employee count to over 150,000. Now, they have many aircraft orders already in place with Airbus and Boeing, and I'm talking away from freighters, to make all of this possible. But their performance across the next 10 years is going to be absolutely fascinating to really witness unfold. Thank you very much for tuning into this aviation news recap. I appreciate your support here on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, but otherwise stay tuned. Same place, same time tomorrow. There'll be another one of these aviation news recaps. And we'll fly.